between me and you, he's gonna be all pro. All right. You look at a young man. Chicago Bears called me right before the draft. General manager called me for the draft. He was like, you know what? We like Akeem a lot. We like Akeem a lot. And our biggest issue with Akeem is the ceiling. We think a lot of people think that he kind of hit that ceiling. And I was like, no, not even close.
Welcome to Double Major, the newest Canadian college football show. I'm your host, Alex McComb. My guest today needs no introduction in my hometown of Ottawa, but in case you're not in the know, he's the founder of Gridiron Academy, a former University of Ottawa GG, a veteran, a community builder, and one of the most important figures in the history of Canadian football, Victor Tedondo, aka Coach Vic. How are we doing today, Coach? Thanks for being with me today.
I'm doing well, Alex. Thanks for having me here. Like I said, I love what you're doing. Football is growing growing here in Canada, for Canadian player both south of the border, and up here. And you've been doing a great job covering, what we do here. And it's amazing to see what you're doing. And you know what? Keep doing it. And I hope everyone's watching this.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Coach, I want to take us back 30 years to 1996 when you moved from Cameroon to Canada and lived in Ottawa. What were those first years actually like? School, community, and finding your footing?
It was actually, Alex, it was actually pretty tough, to be honest with you. Like I said, my parents kind of moved here before I moved here. My parents, my stepdad, actually came here on scholarship in 1990, to do his master's and PhD at the University of Montreal. My mother arrived about a year later. I kind of lived with my grandmother back home pretty much from the time I was born, to about 10 years old, 1996. Like I said, my biological father, I don't know who he is. Like I said, when I was born, my mom was 18 years old, so I never met him. Um, but yeah, so I lived with my grandmother for the first 10 years of my life. We lived in a village in Cameroon, right? Where I was born about 2 hours, at the 2 hours from Nigeria. So we're West Cameroon. So we grew up in a lot of poverty, right? So like when I tell my kids sometimes I used to walk around barefoot, walking 5K to school. Like I said, they still think it's a joke, but it was a reality for us, right? We grew up around a big extended family. My mom's one of 9 kids. So it was big. So when I arrived here, like I said, 1996, about 6 years after my parents. So the first year we were in Montreal. Montreal was good. Land in Montreal. Montreal was good. A bit of a culture shock, but not as much because I spoke French. That's my first language. So that was good for the first 9 months I was in Montreal. And then my dad got a job in Middle Ontario, small town, probably up, I would say population by maybe 3,000 people. Midland is about an hour and a half north of Toronto, and so that was tough, right? So being a minority, one of the few black kid in a city of 3,000 people, not speaking English at all, it was rough. It was a rough 3 years. New country, new culture. It was tough, but my parents eventually moved to Ottawa in '99, Orleans. Right, my mom got a job out of the Ottawa hospital, and later my dad became a professor at the University of Montreal, a couple years later. So he was doing the commute back and forth from Ottawa to Montreal. So we live in Orleans. My parents chose Orleans because partly because of it was a French community. So I did my elementary school in Trillium, and then later on I went to St. Peter High School. So that's when in grade 9, that's when I discovered football. Um, so that's kind of like the childhood all the way to Ottawa to St. Peter High School. St. Pete was a fun environment. Like I say, it was at that point the culture shock was done already. It would have been 3 years since I've been in Canada. The language was like I say, I was speaking English, not perfect English, but good enough to obviously pass grade 9. Yes, I discovered football. I think football was sports. Not only football alone, sports was kind of what really bridged that gap, right? Because as much as I was the new kid in school, barely spoke English. One thing that obviously I had in common with a lot of boys was my talent on either on the track or on a football field or on soccer field. So I was able to create a lot of friendship through sports. Like I said, never played football before. Grade 9 was my first year playing football. My friend at the time, his name was Eric Chabluzo, was like, you know what, they have a trial for the junior team coming up. You want to try for the team? I think that would have been maybe I would have 2-3 weeks into St. Pete's and football. One thing about St. Pete's, huge football culture at St. Pete's. So I was like, you know what, why not? I put my first shoulder pads at 14 years old. The first year was, Alex, it was tough, right? It was tough. Cold weather. I played defensive back for the junior team. It was not a fun experience. But the year after in grade 10, it was when I just really started loving the game. Our head coach was Coach Bean, phenomenal young man. Not phenomenal young man, phenomenal man. Maybe he was a young man at the time, but he was a phenomenal coach. He was really tough on me, but he loved hard. He's one of the reasons why I do what I do now for the kids in the community. Like I say, he was tough. He was one of those guys that, guess what? During the school year, you can see a huge gap in my academic performance. Right, football season, fall semester, I was a great student. Why? Because my football coach, right, Mr. Bean made sure that I was on the right track, right? And then the winter started, spring, you can start, and my grades start falling off a bit. So he was more than a teacher for me. He was a mentor. He was almost a second father. So he made me fall in love with football. And in grade 10, it was a great year for us. We won the city championship. So he kind of moved me position a bit. My first year, I played defensive back. Was not really new to football. My second year kind of moved me close to the line. I played that edge position, outside backer. He sent me after the running back, sent me after the quarterback. It was a great year. Like I said, like I said, with St. Pete's. That's our tradition, right? And we end up winning the city championship that year against St. Pat's.
And, similar to me when I played in NACAF for the Canada Knights over 10 years ago, you grew up and played football right there in Ottawa. What was the ecosystem like as a young man in Canada at that time? I know today, 2026, D1 and youth sports options are a lot more known to kids now, credit to programs like yours. But back then, what was that like? Did you know what your options were? Was there a path forward?
Honestly, a lot of things were through word of mouth, right? At that point of time, like I said, I first started playing football in grade 9. Grade 10 is kind of when I started loving the game. And then after that grade 10 years, my eyes start opening a bit more, right? That's when people start talking about community football. I didn't know about community football until grade 10. They start talking about summer football, or that back then it was OVFL. So it wasn't a clear path. And you need to be around the right people to get the right information, right? But there were no off season. The off season was non-existent at all. Like what we have today. There were not too many folks even going D1. I remember hearing about Pat Woodcock. I remember hearing about Darren Joseph at that point. Obviously, his path was from junior football to University of Ottawa for 1 year and then going on and playing CFL. The Pilon brother, I remember heard about the Pilon brother. They went to Syracuse, but it was not a clear path, right? It was almost there were no blueprint, Alex. They were just, those guys got lucky. I remember just the quarterback, Jesse
Jesse
Palmer.
Palmer, yeah.
Jesse Palmer, it was obviously the dad. The dad had the fun to be able to take him on and go to different camps in the States. He played the Riders, and he end up going to University of Florida. I played for the Gators for a couple of years before going to NFL, but it was not a clear path like we have today. And I guess, and then I start through trial and error. I start figuring out my own way through the system. That right after that grade 10 year, I discovered OVFL. OVFL, that was the first year. There was the senior team before that, but that was the first year that Ottawa actually have a JV OVFL team. And back then, it was only one team. That was the Myers Riders. So I wanted to try for that team. Another friend of mine who was a teammate at point in time, Jeff Boudreaux, was like, you know what? that this team that are going to be playing and be playing a high competition across Ontario. You want to go try out, and that's what I did. Uh, Once again, right? I started with Coach Bean at St. Pete. Now I'm introduced to a complete new culture. New culture. We're talking about Myers Riders, which was a powerhouse back then, right? Powerhouse when it comes down to community football back then. My coaching staff there we have great coaches, right? My linebacker coach was Coach Mario Panada, who was a phenomenal teacher, a phenomenal coach. Our head coach, Coach Dom. I can't recall Coach Dom's last name, but like it's just and like I said, like those folks really introduced us to what was a true football culture. That's also where I met some of my closest friends, like Joey Kanan, and that's it was OSFL. They call OSFL now. OVFL was a big thing back then. It just started, was growing. They were competing against team in Toronto, Brampton. It was great. And for me around that time too, Alex, it was kind of another thing too, where it was position change because I got there and I would have been probably 15 years old, 5'9", because I kind of stopped growing. I stopped growing grade 9. I've been 5'9" since grade 9. 5'9", maybe 160 pounds. And I was telling the coaches, Coach Miro was like, what position you want to play? I was like, last year I played at St. Pete's. Last fall I played at St. Pete's. I was more of an edge rusher, slash DN. And he looked at me, he's like, okay, we did testing. You're like one of the fastest kids here. Ideally, you build more like a linebacker slash safety, running back, and that's pretty much where he kind of settled me in. Like, you know, I'm gonna play linebacker. You're gonna play linebacker for us. But he told me after the season, when you go back to the Panthers, which is your home club for community football, maybe ask them if they can you can learn how to play running back because you're fitted for running back position or safety position. So we played. It was like I said, it was a great year for us. We end up losing in semis against a good Brampton team, which included Jerome Messon and other guys that end up playing the CFL. So it was a great year for us. And then right after the season, I returned to Cumberland, and that was my first time, Alex, being introduced to NCAFA football. So think about it. I'm in grade 10, and I'm like, in the Catholic football. And I went there for, it would have been late August, right after OVFL finished. And I asked the coach there, like, based on some recommendation from my summer football coaches, it would be good if I can play running back. And pretty much what they told me is like, without even seeing me play, is like, we're kind of far running back. We have guys who've been playing since Tyke, and if you want to play any other position, why not? We'll definitely open to that. But the team was already made. So I was that year I was going to go back to play Cumberland and end up playing linebacker at the bantam level. But my best friend, once again, the one that actually introduced me to football at St. Pete, encouraged me to come try for midget football. I would have been 15 at that point. And I was like, you know what? I talked to the Cumberland Panthers. They don't seem too interested. They want me to go play that linebacker position. And Eric was like, you know what? Let's go try midget ball. Like, they have the Dukes. Dukes is a really good team. Gloucester, they used to be called Gloucester Dukes at that point. So I went to travel with my buddy Eric, and my initial contact with the head coach, Coach Bellini, he was like, how old are you? I was like, I'm 15, turning 16 soon. I was like, you're still a bantam level kid. I can't really have you play here. And he kind of explained the league rule as far as requiring release and waiver from Cumberland if I want to come play a level up midget. Because back then, midget football was not in a CAFA. It was a complete different league. So I went back to the Cumberland Panthers, and they granted me a waiver. And Coach Bean later on told me that when he actually made the phone call to Coach Chris Lovell to kind of talk about me, they were like, he would have to be another guy on our roster. So for me, Alex, that was another big jump for me, right? Going from obviously JV OVFL, now to midget football. And back then, midget football was for 17 to 18 years, to 20 years old kids, right? So it was not like it is today. So the guys were a lot older. So I was in the locker room with guys some of them were 3 to 4 years older than I was. But once again, I it was a it was literally a new world for me. Midget was a highly structured. It was a highly structured. That midget team was a highly structured. We're talking about the 10 to 12 staff. We had a trainer, we had a equipment manager, and we have a position coach for each position. Some position even have two coaches, right? And for the first time in my life, we actually started watching film, which was great. And I never played running back before too, right? So I got coached the right way. My running back coach was Coach Ed Joseph. Coach Ed Joseph played at Carleton for years, right before they closed down the program. So I was able to learn from a guy that have a lot of youth sports experience at time. But and once again, the law that room there, the running back room was kind of full. I was number 7 running back going to camp. And I kind of worked my way up all the way to number 2 by game 5 this season. It was a great year. Learned a lot from great coaches. Like I said, and I ended up winning the rookie of the year for the league that year, and we ended up winning the championship. So that was my first reintroduction to community football here in Ottawa. Phenomenal. A lot of things have changed too, Alex. I don't know if when you play midget football how it was, but back then it was really competitive. We didn't have that many teams like we have today, but it was highly competitive.
Yeah,
It was really high.
from my time, it wasn't as competitive as OSFL or OVFL. It was still OVFL at my time, but for midget, it wasn't. What made it a bit more competitive was that it wasn't unpopular for some, like if a Carleton Raven or an Ottawa GG decided maybe that university football life wasn't for them and they wanted to still play football. I had players like Jordan Gorgachuk, who played Carleton Ravens for a year. He was my teammate with Canada Knights in 2014 when I was in grade 11, and he was like 19, 20 years old. So that wasn't unpopular. And I mean, that happened with other guys that with the Nepean Eagles and the Bel Air Norsemen were the 2 top teams in the league those couple of years that I was in midget. But yeah, it wasn't like OVFL where you're playing against teams in Toronto and London and getting blown out by. When I got blown out by Essex in the summer of 2015. But yeah, it's interesting you mentioned earlier about Pat Woodcock. He was actually my strength coach and mentor years ago when I was working out at the Elite Performance Academy. Him and Donnie Ruiz, and I think Donnie changed it to Strength House now. And I think one of your guys, Nate Marty, I worked out with him a bit during his or before his pro day a year ago or something like that. But
Yeah, both Nate and Jonathan are jet great dudes, right? And I think I got to learn a lot from Pat as well too, right? Because when Pat first before he opened Elite, I was running a 1-day camp, weekend camp only. That's kind of what we did with Gridiron Academy, and Pat kind of brought that idea of an academy in a sense. Guess what? We train guys all year long. Pat and other guys, but great dudes, right? Like Donnie's another phenomenal dude. So we need a lot more in that in town.
yeah, yeah. And you were, 17, 18 years old when you were started coaching while you were still playing. What drew you to that leadership life so early?
I think it was right after my major year. It was such a great experience, Alex. Right, like I said, Coach Bellini was Coach Bellini. Not only him, the head coach. Coach Bellini took me under his wing. The Including the OCL, Mike Johnson, and my running back coach. Right, so right after we won the major championship that year, the I believe the CAFA merged with the major club. They merged all together. So major became, I guess, the Glacier Dukes became the only Orleans Dukes. And at the younger level, where Randy first started coaching back in his days, the Bengals were bleeding heavily. And it seems that they have not won a game in 2 years or 3 years. So he went back to a lower level. and he asked me during that right after the season ended, is like, will you be interested in coaching? He asked that question. He asked me would have been January 2020, January 2003. And he said, will you be interested in coaching running backs at a tight level? I'm going to be the head coach. And he was like, and I was like, why not? And he was like, it was not going to be, there will not be any conflict, any conflict between your schedule and the tech schedule because they train a lot earlier than the midget guys. I was like, that's exactly how I got coaching. So 2023 was my first year coaching football, coaching youth football. And that's also the year that I met Michael O'Connor. It's kind of is ironic because Michael ended up actually being one of my guys at Gridiron Academy. Michael would have been 7 at the time. So I stopped coaching. And one thing that coaching actually brought me is I was late in the game as far as skill, even football IQ was concerned, right, Alex? So that really, really helped with my own development as an athlete because I'm sitting here, I'm 17 years old, I'm trying to teach this young man who's 7 years old how to play running back. You can't really teach someone how to play running back if you're not a good running back, right? So it really brought, like I said, I was able to really break everything down to the science. So by 17 years old, my growth is just coaching. That 1 year just changed my life completely from a football IQ perspective. And it helped me a lot. And also too, it kind of gave me a true passion, right? I started becoming a leader where, what, those young 7 years old actually look up to you, right? That means even the way I behave at school, it was a different because I became more of a leader. And the fact that the Coach Bean kind of trusts me in that role gave me a lot of confidence as a young man.
You've said you believe you would have gone further in football if you'd had the same opportunities you now give your athletes like Michael O'Connor. Can you take me back to a specific moment where you felt that ceiling as a player and how that shaped everything that came after?
I think it kind of just started with even my training alone. All right. When I got to the Dukes, Gloucester Dukes, I was introduced by another guy who was really influential in my life, Trevor Monahan. Trevor back then when I played for the Dukes, he was a quarterback coach. Trevor played D1 football at Mary State, and then he went to Ottawa U. And he was also the strength coach for the Gloucester Dukes at that point of time. So right after the season, going back to the question there, right after the season, not only I accept that position as a running back coach for the 2023 type team, but also I start working with Trevor. So he changed my body completely. So I went from a young man who was 5'9", 5'10", 168 pounds to 3 months later being 190. All right. Like I said, like I went from not squatting to squatting 4 plates and cleaning over 225. So you start really seeing how that knowledge that he brought from playing D1 for a couple of years to us. So that was a physical side of things. But as far as the recruiting side of things, Coach Blaney kind of gave me that love for college football. When I first got to Dukes, I thought this man actually could coach at Ohio State. Because he was all decked up on Ohio State gear. So he always be talking about that rivalry between Michigan and Ohio State. He'd be holding those tailgate at his house when Ohio State played Michigan. So it kind of gave me that reality of what ball is down there. And so that was kind of like the vision of it. But as far as the exposure, I didn't get that exposure. And there were no one to really teach me or to bring me down to exposure. So in grade 11, right after that year of training with Trevor and that year of helping with the Tykes, I obviously through word of mouth again, going to exposure camp. So back then there were a guy named Ron Diaz. Ron Diaz, his camps were based out of Toronto area. Sometime was in Aurora, sometime was a bit further near Cambridge. But he had a camp once a year during the summer where he brought college coaches down. And that was the first time, Alex, where I saw that there were a huge gap in my development as an athlete. not only as an athlete, but as a football player. So I went down there. There were a lot of guys there. A lot of, like I said, Ron Diaz can produce a lot of D1 guys because those coaches, Rice University will come down. Akron, a lot of Max school will come down there. Even small school will come down and offer a lot of the guys. They started the camp. It was about a 3-day camp where they got to see us. They got to obviously we got to experience what it is to go through a kind of a university environment. And a lot of feedback that I was getting from those coaches, like, you're a phenomenal athlete, but you're really much behind as far as football is concerned. Right. And that's what I told myself. What happened if I started this process 4 years back, 3 years back, even 4 years back? What happened if I was exposed to this in grade 8 and grade 9? And then also to that summer too, I went to Syracuse camp by myself because Alex, my parents, they came here obviously as an immigrant, right? So like a lot of their focus was putting food on the table. And my parents are academician, like their academic is always number one. So for them, even me playing football, they thought was a waste of time. So even me asking them, Mom, can I get money to go to Ron Diaz camp? It was like, no, I had to work, and get money to go to those camp myself. Syracuse camp, I didn't drive. I took the bus down there. Michigan camp, I did it myself too. So when I went to a Syracuse camp, it was another reality check. They were like, it was even more exposing than the Ron Diaz camp. And we're talking about upstate New York. Like, from what I know now, upstate New York football is nothing compared to what we have in Michigan, what we have in DMV area, or even Florida or in Texas. But for me, it was like, wow, like they have a huge gap. And I realized it too when I went to camp there, Alex. The testing, I did well for testing. Like I look apart. I look up from a physical perspective, and there were a guy there, which we're really good friends now. His name was Mike Hart. I look at him, like I said, we arrived at camp, or went through the testing period, and I was like, and this guy was getting so much attention from the coaching staff, and from everyone. I was like, this guy's a bit shorter than I am. From a physical perspective, we tested. I did a lot better in a lot of the area compared to him, right? And this guy at that point, I have 25 offers, Michigan being one of his best offers. And that's when I realized that, okay, like looking apart is one thing. This kid's from a football IQ, from everything else, they way ahead of us. So and like I said, I met Mike. I was like, what's so special about you? Like I said, everyone's after you. He's like, yeah, he been coming. This is my third time coming to this camp. I started coming here when I was an 8th grader. He kind of told me about his own process, about the fact that his parents bring him to different camp in the States, Michigan, all that too. And also too, obviously his film spoke volume, right? That he brought his team to a state title, everything else. So that's when I started realizing that even our film here does not mean too much to them down there as well too. Because at the end of the day, like when I first contacted Syracuse, they were like, we want to see your camp. We want, especially for a guy like myself, who's 5'9", 5'10". I'm not a 6'5", 250 pounder defensive lineman, which guess what? Going to jump out of the crowd when they get out of the bus. So for a lot of guys, skill guys for us was, can you compete? Can you run? Can you compete against American? So that's why I realized where the gap was.
And then kind of moving forward into 2007, you started Gridiron Academy originally, I believe, as a free camp with just a few clients. Walk me through that first year. Who believed in you and what made you keep going?
Yes. It's kind of weird the way the whole Gridiron Academy first started, right? Because so right after high school, right? Right after high school, I had a couple of options, right? Syracuse told me they liked me a lot. They told me they ran after I can't win Syracuse. We like you a lot, but you're real low on our board. What we want to do is go to CJEP, because back then it was really popular. Go to CJEP, reclass, do 2 years there, and then guess what? We will definitely you will be a full scholarship guy. If you want to come here, it's going to be on a partial scholarship. My parents were not for that whatsoever. So, and I kind of talked to my parents about the second option about going to CJEP. My parents looked at me as if I was crazy. My mom was like, you graduate high school from St. Pete. You got accepted to Ottawa. You got accepted to University of Montreal. You got accepted to all these universities, but you want to go back to CJEP for football? It did not make sense at all for them. So at that point, like I said, my dreams were crushed at that point of time, right? But they didn't believe my dreams. They didn't believe in anything at all. At one point, my mom was like, you should not even be playing football. You get hurt, you will get hurt, you get a concussion, it's just focus on your academics. So I ended up just going to Ottawa U. I went to Ottawa U, and my head was not really in it. And around the same time, through my senior year, I joined the military as well too, as a reservist. So I was doing the reserve thing, the football. I was doing all of that at the same time. Fast forward to 2 years into university. I'm at Ottawa U. I'm seeing what's going on here. I'm looking at youth sports for real, right? In the sense that what does that going to provide long term for me? I'm looking at Jesse Lumsden. I don't know if you remember Jesse.
Yep.
Jesse guy. Went to Mac. This dude was a freak. So we're talking 6'2", 225, 4'5" guy. He was averaging 200 plus yard a game.
One of Greg Marshall's favorite running backs. Yeah.
Absolutely. This guy was just a freak of nature. He destroyed a lot of record, OAU record. I think he might even have destroyed some youth sport record at the time.
And became an Olympian too.
Became Olympian. So the dude after his year, I think he won the head cracking too. After that year, he got drafted in the CFL. A lot of us were expecting this man to go on and play NFL. He get a mini camp trial with the Seahawks back then, and then he came back play for the Ticats. And in my head, I was like, okay, Jesse's making like 50, 60 G's playing football, and he's what I am trying to be one day. Right, and back then, I'm getting a lot of pressure from my parents. He's like, why are you still playing this game? Focus on school. And I also, too, around that time, too, Alex, I was working multiple jobs. Outside of just doing the reserve, I was also working at Ottawa U Gym. I also working at LCBO. I was also a bouncer at the same time. So I had a three part-time job around time. And I bought myself a car on my 19th birthday. And I got myself a nice little car. My mom was like, you know what? You're never home. This is like hotel for you. You know what? I can start charging you rent. So my parents start charging me $500 a month for rent. And then after about a few months, I was like, I might as well just move out because I'm paying rent, $500 a month, but I'm still getting waking up at 5 a.m. to clean the driveway because my mom had to go to work for 6. So I have no freedom. I might as well go and find an apartment with my girlfriend at that time, who's my wife now, and be close to downtown. And, and it would be, I would have a way better life. So I started looking for an apartment, and I found one, $900. That was kind of like what we were looking for. Pretty much $900 to $1,000. Was terrible. The place looked, it was a terrible place. And I went back home, kind of looking at my finances. I'm like, you know what? I got multiple full-time jobs, multiple part-time jobs, the military and everything else. Like, I can definitely afford a mortgage. Maybe I should try buying a house and paying $1,100 a month, $1,200 a month instead of wasting $900. So I went to the bank. Talked to my financial advisor. I was like, I want a house. And I would have been around 20 years old, Alex. I'm going to buy a house. Here's my T4, my multiple part-time job. And I told her, you know what? I make about $50,000 a year. I should be able to afford it. I should be able to paying my mortgage should not be an issue. She was like, son, it's not that easy. One, we need to, first of all, you've been behind on credit card payments, so we need to fix your credit. And 2, we're not going to give someone a mortgage with multiple part-time job. You need a full-time job. So that was kind of that crossroad for me, Alex. So I had a chance, I had an option to do military full time and finish my last 2 years of school part time and get that house. But that also means quitting football because I can't do all of that. I can't be in the military full time, play football, and still have those multiple part time jobs. So I made a hard decision, which kind of put me in the dark for about a year, where it was, you know what, 19 years old, I'm gonna stop playing ball. I'm gonna focus on my career. I'm gonna focus on building a better life for myself. So within 8 months, I buy that house at 20, almost 21 years old. Clean my credit, buy that house, military full time. And I was still coaching the Bengals. It was coaching the Bengals did not really fill that void at all of the void of me obviously going on playing next level football. So after a while, I thought about what can I do to make sure that young men don't end up in the same situation that I am right now, where they have to choose between the game that they love and real life. And I told myself, what happened if I start this whole entire process, instead of starting this process, the whole recruiting process, exposure process, 15, 16 years old, what happened if I started, let's say at 13, 14 years old and grade 9? Would I have a different outcome? So I was like, maybe I'm going to start a camp. We're going to start a camp and kind of close that gap. So young man can definitely, obviously, achieve their dream. And that's how Gridiron Academy was born. It was actually not a Gridiron Academy. It was called Gridiron Academy Camp. Ottawa Gridiron Academy Football Camp. That's when it was born. Born 2007. We had our first camp. It was a huge success. A lot of it, like I said, most kids not pay a dime, and we also have a lot of kids, First Nation kids coming from up north. So the academy really pretty much, the camp really filled that void. Filled that void that I wanted.
You've mentioned, serving in the armed forces. As I mentioned to you before the show, I'm a military brat myself, so I can definitely appreciate your service. My dad served in the Air Force 40 years. He was when he was my age, mid late 20s. He was in West Germany during the Cold War, from 79 to like 84, and then he was in Bosnia in 95. I'm the only one of his 4 kids that was actually born in Canada because of his career and us bouncing between bases and like going to Colorado and Virginia and Cold Lake, Alberta, even before I got back to Ottawa. So I got to see, what leadership and accountability really means up close. What did the military service kind of teach you that kind of translated into coaching? What was that time like for you?
It was a work hand in hand. In a sense that even the way I coach young men nowadays, the same way they kind of taught me in military work, which is always kind of leading from the back, right? Is the discipline, the accountability, all those fit really well into what we call football today. I remember not even today, like old school football, because football today is a bit soft and it's a bit softer than the football that I played and some that came before me. But like I said, that mental toughness, right? Going to war with 53 of your best friend. You guys are going through the mud together, the cold days is that brotherhood. It's that nothing more than that. Like today, I'm 40 years old, Alex. And my best friends are the guys that I play football with, or the guys that I joined the military with, because they have nothing like that. Like I said, like we live today in today's society, like I said, and that's one thing I'm trying to teach my own kids, right? They live in a really selfish world, right? And it's because it's always about me. We're in the military. I still remember time where, guess what? We get punished for one person making a mistake, right? When you get punished once, Alex, you make sure the next morning that everyone's helping that one person, so you guys don't get punished, all right? So no one's left behind. So after I was done shining my boots, guess what I'm doing? I'm helping shine his boots. I'm helping make his bet, right? Because we're a team. No one's left behind, and that's one thing that we're really missing to this society, right? It worked really well, and I think the military made me who I am today. I joined the military when I was 17 years old, right? So I kind of grew up in the military. It worked really well with football. It worked really well with football. That's one thing too. The same thing I'm trying to install into our football athletes. Right? You see the way Akeem Mestor is, right? He is a football player. Not only is a football player, he's a soldier. And that's what our guys are all about. They're soldiers, right? And honestly, like I said, I'm gonna push my kids into cadet. I will tell them to at least try for a couple years.
That was me in middle
Uh,
school.
exactly it. If my son get a chance to do reserve, I will. My son and my daughters, I will definitely push that because they have nothing that will teach you how to be a better person than the military.
And is that where you came up with? I heard you had a philosophy that's based around an acronym CIA, character, integrity, accountability. Is that where that kind of comes from?
Absolutely. And we see a lot of young men, they live by that. Jonathan Sutherland is one of my favorite kids because that's what he lived by. Um, and um, and that's who we are. And when you hear the hashtag the culture, that's what we're talking about, Alex.
And now, kind of going back to building Gridiron, in the past, you've described, real friction with different people, parents, high school coaches, organizations who may have saw you and Gridiron as a problem or as stealing kids' dreams that those people may deem that weren't very realistic or something like that. How did you navigate that kind of resistance from those people?
At first, Alex, I was angry. I wanted to fight them all, like we all do, right? Kind of tell them, guess what? You're wrong. I'm right. But as you get older, you start realizing, right? It's when I start traveling a bit more, you realize, guess what? A lot of people don't know what they don't know, right? I had a chance to look at life differently, right? Because I was surrounded by people, all right, that were able to kind of teach me better. And I think that at the end of the day, and I tell those coaches all the time, when we don't see eye to eye, I'm always gonna ask you as a coach, what's your main priority? Right? What is your main priority? Is your main priority is to use Johnny to get an A-Cup championship? If your priority is to make sure that guess what, Johnny helped you win the OSFL championship? If that's your priority, guess what? Me and you are not alike. Because my job here, this is youth football. No Super Bowl is being won today. And I start coaching soccer now too. Same thing. No World Cup is being won today. Not. So we're here to develop young men and young ladies. So if you winning games for your own ego is your goal, you're in the wrong business. So that's and as I get older too, right? Is that certain fight you don't fight. Because at the end of the day, time will tell, right? Because I've seen so many kids, Alex, that have so much talent that went nowhere here in Ottawa. And it's sad. And it's because a grown woman, having an ego. I don't know. Like I said, I live in my philosophy. I don't know anything. I want to learn more. If you can teach me more, Alex, please let me know. If you can teach me a better way of delivering young athlete, I want to learn. All right. So if that can bring that young man, that young woman next level and be able to provide for their family, able to get an education, we're all winning.
You've placed dozens of Division I athletes and had multiple Under Armour All-Americans. What does it take to produce that consistently from Canada's capital city?
It's weird. It's love. You got to love your athletes. You got to love them. Love sometimes, Alex, is love sometimes is tough. Sometimes kids um not gonna like you. Sometimes people coach around not gonna like you, but it's love because when you truly love someone, you tell them the truth, right? And I think that the reason why our kids are successful because we tell them the truth from the get-go. I was talking to Evan Aubrey. Evan Aubrey would be a phenomenal young man. He was a FCS All American, FCS freshman All American last year. He's gonna go on and do great. And me and Evan had dinner last week, and he was a coach. Yeah, I'm not changed. The man that I met when I was 13, 14 years old, same man you are today. So we're just honest with them. We love them. We, in a sense, guess what? If you're not doing something right, if you're not doing well in school, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it for you. You gotta get that's that military side of me too, right? You gotta get your thing together, right? Don't call me, be like, coach, this coach, I want to transfer school. This coach doesn't like me. The first thing I'm gonna ask you, look at yourself in the mirror. We're honest with our guys. Akeem Mestor called me multiple times. Coach, I want to leave Miami. I've been injured. I can't play football. I'm not loving life anymore. And you have to be honest with them. Guess what? There'll be time where things are not going your way. There'll be time where that's part of the game. And I think that's what it is. You have to be honest with them, right? A lot of time, to me, being honest with young man, they're going to run away because a lot of people are not ready for that. But when you love them, the good one will notice that, and they will do anything for you.
I dug up an old article from the LA Daily News from 2015 when Eli Ankou was playing at UCLA, one of your first athletes to make it to the big leagues. You compared Canadian football to where Canadian basketball was before Andrew Wiggins at that point, like the Steve Nash era. You said it would take guys like Eli to grow the pipeline from Canada to D1, and you predicted that you'd see results by 2025 or 2030. Now we're seeing the fruits. Akeem Mesidor going first round in this year's NFL draft. Renee Conga and Wellesley Bailey getting NFL contracts in the same week. Lots of CFL talent from Gridiron. It's been over 10 years since you made that statement. I don't know if you want to call it a prophecy, but did everything work out the way you thought it would, or did it exceed your wildest expectations?
Alex, it definitely did work out. I was expecting a bit sooner, to be honest with you. But it did work out because we have a lot of young men that fell off. Even those three men that you name, Kim Messidor, Wesley Bailey, and Renee Conga, if you'd have asked me 7, 8 years ago that those would be the guys, that will be the one getting a chance at the NFL in 2026, a lot of people would have to call you a liar. They'd be like, what this guy's drinking? But I think that we have so much talent, not only here in Ottawa, but here in Canada, that even the number that we saw this year, we can double that. We can triple that. Because Ottawa, when you look at the size of Ottawa, from population perspective, right, we're almost double the size of Detroit. And I have no reason why Detroit should be producing more first round, second round, more drafting than Ottawa should be. And I think the biggest issue of Ottawa is we are all an enemy. Like I said, and that's the reality, right? Is an ego. Coaches are going against each other, right? But going back to your point, Alex, we can definitely do a lot more. Why not us? I've been telling our guys, like I told Evan the other day, why not us? Right? Like I said, I'm a huge Drake fan. We're born the same year, right? See what he's doing right now. Why not us? Right? Akeem Messidor being first round draft pick, 22nd overall. Why not us? I just think that we have that limitation. We put limitation on what we can do as individual, as athletes, right? And I think that honestly, if Ottawa can get together, if Canada can get together and build this sport, they have no reason why we cannot be having the Shea Alexander being, back to back NBA MVP. They have no reason why we cannot have Akeem talked about it already. I will not be surprised. The goal this year is 10 plus sacks. And that's the way it is. You got picked in the first round. So what's next? Right? It's always like, it's a process. We call it a process, right? It's never stopping, right? You get into one stage. Guess what? We restart over again. And I think that, guess what? We have a lot of talent. We cannot put a limit into our ceiling, right? Like I told them, Akeem being picked first in the first round, was kind of elevate that floor. He elevate a floor slightly bit, right? So we're the next dude, guess what? You have a lot more to fight for. And I think like sky's the limit up here in Canada.
You just mentioned, you had a conversation with Akeem about some of his goals for the season, 10 plus sacks. Were there any other goals that he talked about with you recently?
No, I think step by step, right? 10 plus sacks. I think between me and you, he's gonna be all pro. All right. You look at a young man. Chicago Bears called me right before the draft. General manager called me for the draft. He was like, you know what? We like Akeem a lot. We like Akeem a lot. And our biggest issue with Akeem is the ceiling. A lot of people think that he kind of hit that ceiling. And I was like, no, not even close. And I kind of explained why I think Akeem is not even close to where it's supposed to be. And I kind of, and he went and did his research as well. I was like, Akeem, first of all, Akeem, where he grew up, right? He did not have the resources from a nutrition perspective for everything to be able to physically be ready to play at this level. Where my son got everything. The physio's there. He need like I say, if you want a physio 15 times a year, 20 times a year, 30, 50 a year, we got the resource for that. Akeem never had that growing up. I kind of talk about Akeem's journey. Akeem started West Virginia in 2020. And I was like, Akeem was here in June 2020 and July 2020. Most folks his class either got on campus either early that year, mid-year in January 2020, or they got there late May or early June. This guy did not get his paperwork figured out until July. He hit West Virginia. He arrived at West Virginia late July. He had COVID. He was forced to be quarantined for about 2 weeks. So he was able to be in PATH at West Virginia mid-August. That's 2 weeks before their first game. And he got his first college career sack that game. So it kind of gave you a bit of where this kid with a full training, full effort can give you on the field. And then the first year, he was a freshman All-American at 5.5 sacks. Right? First year in college, playing minimal snap. Next year, they move him. He went from 255 pounds, 260 pounds. All right. They move him inside at nose tackle, because they lost one of their starters. So Akeem, once again, gained a bunch of pounds. Right. And during that season, second season, he scrubbed his shoulder. He need to have surgery at the end of season. So 2021, he had no off season at all. 2022, right after that year he played nose tackle. He ended up still 5.5 sacks, playing one tech at 260. He transferred to Miami. Before he transferred to Miami, he had shoulder surgery. So when he arrived in Miami, no spring camp, no main camp at all. They brought him late in the main camp. And he was still a starter, right? He got a couple practice before the Miami first game. 3 games to the season, he had foot issue on his right foot. He played with that torn ligament on his right foot the whole entire season, right? Still, it led Miami in sacks, 7.5 sacks. No off season at all in 2023. Why? Because they were trying to keep him fresh. Shoulder was still a bit of an issue. That photo was still a bit of an issue, so he didn't run at all. He didn't no spring camp in 2023, no fall camp. Beginning of fall camp 2023, barely did anything. All right, season 2023, the other foot. All right, so he's off again. 2023 season's done. 2024, barely any off season. 2024 season, 5.5 sacks. All right, so and what I told the Bears GM, 2025 off season was his only off season in college. And we saw what he can do for one full off season. So that young man, sky's the limit for him. Right? I keep my story right now. I'm 40 years old, Alex. I'm probably stronger than he is physically. So when that man's body is well put together, he's a technician. He loves football. He's a football junkie. This kid can talk about football all day long. About that. He's not going to be, like I said, like he's a football player. A lot of, in the past, a lot of coaches I told, I guess what, those Canadian guys, they're just bodies, right? It's just, that's what they do. They're big physical, they're big guys. But I can't mess with a football player. And the minute where he gets his body together, what you saw there this past season, when I came strong, it's going to be over for the rest of the NFL.
And, years ago, you spotted Akeem at a Tyke football game. He was on the North Gloucester Giants at the time. You were coaching with the Orleans Bengals. What did you see in that 8 or 9-year-old that made you want to walk up to him and his mother after the game?
It's that dog. I think that's what it is. That military mindset of mine, right? Like you're looking for guys, right? Kind of dudes, I guess what you can just kick down the ground, kick, and then get back up. So I was coaching. I was coaching the Orleans Bengals. I was the head coach of the Tyke team, and we're playing. The first year we played against Akeem was 2009. Playing against the Giants. I think the score would have been lopsided score. Probably beat them by like 60, 65 points. And they'll beat this guy that was just this young that was not give up. Right. We're scheming against him. Like I said, he doesn't give up. He playing running back. He's playing linebacker. He's playing all over the field. He's on special team. And I think that's kind of what he had, that it factor, the guy that will never give up. And you don't see a lot of young men like that anymore. And Akeem was it, right? And his team will be constantly losing. A lot of kids now, they will get waivers to go play for a better team so they can win the A-Cup championship. Akeem was not that guy. So first year played him. That was my first year noticing him. Second year, same thing. At that point, I think that game was actually at the Giants field. Beat them again. Probably beat them by 6-7 touchdown. After the game, I approached them. I'm like, Kiki, because obviously everyone know who Kiki was because mom's so loud. You can hear his mom from far. Kiki, you were the best player on the field today. By far the best player. Akeem was like, what do you mean? Like, you just got killed. Like, yeah, you were. And Alex, we're talking the field. Like on that field, there were Jared Teodor. He went to Toledo. There were Darius McKenzie, who's got picked up by the Argos, right? We have who else? We have a bunch of guys. Jonathan Najed, he played U Sport. Kenny Mastador. Like we have dudes on that field, and he was still, like I said, and I told him, like, you're the best dude on the field. And it's just for me. I look for the Catholic football. Like I tell people all the time, it's not just in the Catholic football, youth sports in general, right? It's really, really hard to tell which kid's good at that age, right? By performance alone, right? For me at that point, is guess what? Who is willing to get up after getting beat up on a regular basis? That's how I evaluate talent. Jonathan Sullivan was the same way. Jonathan Sullivan was a bit more on the winning team. The Giants were great, but Jonathan was at his best when his team was not great. When they were facing a good competition. That's the reason why, like I said, like I went and approached Jonathan as well too, because that's what we're looking for next level. Because college football, guess what? Everyone playing college football is good. Everyone came from the best of the best. Everyone was all state. So if you're not willing to, if you can't fight when the back's against a wall, you know what? You have no point even trying.
There's a moment that's been, widely reported where Akeem quit football and went to work at Domino's. You tracked him down and talked him back. What do you remember from that conversation?
I remember a young man that was lost. That's what I remember. I remember a young man that needed guidance, that needed love, right? That needed support. And I think also too, Alex, that's when I realized I cannot always be that military god, right? Because that's what it was, right? And it's kind of tough too, because as a father of three now, I got to make sure that sometimes I'm not too insensitive either. Because sometimes tough love, like I said, will definitely push certain kids away. Um, the reason why I keep want to quit football is we went through camp. It would have been mega camp in Detroit. No, it was actually no, it was not mega. It wasn't Detroit. It was actually in Ann Harbor. It was a Michigan camp. We went there, and two of our guys picked up offers from Michigan. One of them was Christian Veyer, our quarterback, who's a year younger than Akeem, and the other one was like Kenny Mastidor. Um, Kenny was just a freak, 6'2", 6'3". Kenny did everything right at that camp. Ran a good 40, he ran a 4.5 40. He tests so well that they kind of try him at every position from edge to all the way to safety. And Akeem was there. So on the ride back home, and that's like the car ride home from our trips is always a tough one for our athletes, right? Because it's 8 hours of me talking smack to them. A lot of them they can't handle it, right? So on the way back home, and one thing, Alex, we're really honest. I love my guys. We're really on. We're a family. We're honest with each other. So I look back. We were driving a seven passenger, driving a van. I look back in the car, and Akeem was sitting right here. Akeem Messer was sitting here. Kenny Messer was sitting there. I look at Akeem. I'm like, we all know who's the best ball player in this car is. And I kind of told him, guess what? Excuse my language. You got to get your shit together, right? Because you're missing training. You're missing this. You're missing that on a regular basis. That's the reason why you're not able to capitalize on your skill set. So I think Akeem kind of took it really hard. Went back home. And normally he kind of told his mom, like, I'm kind of done. Like, all those guys they're getting the cheese, they're getting the offers, they're getting that positive reinforcement. I'm not. And on top of that too, it's financially expensive for you. I gotta book you on a regular basis to kind of get money for those trips. So, you know what, he's like, I was gonna work, I'm gonna take care of myself. And so when I met up with Akeem at Domino's corner of Montreal, and Saint Laurent. Um, I kind of told him, like, dude, like, what are you gonna do? Like I said, I know you since you're 8, 9 years old, right? What are you gonna do if you're not playing football? Um, you know, if you're not, first of all, if you're not Grand Academy, I've been keeping track of your academic for the past 4 or 5 years, making sure that you're doing well in school. What are you gonna do if you're not around? Um, and he was like, you know what? I might want to be a cop one day. I'm like, that was my dream growing up. I want to be a cop. That's why I joined the military. So I was like, you know what? If you want to be a cop, you need some experience, volunteer experience. The coaching, military. You also not only you might need police foundation, but you might also need a degree like I did. And I was like, I came. Will you be able to go to university and college without football? That's why he was like, no. I was like, you know what? You need football. And I told him, guess what? We're gonna work together. You get through this. And that was it. I came back next day. He showed up early. And I think at that point too, Akeem was trying to prove to me something. He was trying to prove something to me, right? I'll be driving to L'Oreal Dome, for training. I'll be driving, and as I get there, Akeem's already there on the field, working. And you knew at that point that something really, something switched into his head. And sky's the limit for Akeem, right? And a couple months later, he picked up his first offer.
Now, I want to talk about that NFL draft moment, a little over a month ago. Akeem has a Gridiron Academy tattoo on his right arm. He told TSN's Dave Naylor that without you and your academy, he wouldn't be where he is. When you watched him get picked number 22 overall by the LA Chargers in this year's NFL draft, what was going through your head?
One, Alex, I was proud, right? Um, I was really happy. A lot of things went through my head. The dark place that young man went through. And you know what? This is not a lot. I told a lot of people, right? This was not a lottery ticket. He's exactly where he was supposed to be. And I'm really, really happy that God was able to, by that, to fulfill his dream. Because he worked so hard. And this game of football, right? Like I said, like they have so many factors, right? Injuries. I knew Akeem was gonna be an NFL player, no doubt, Alex. That was he has receipt to prove it. We call when we talk about accountability, it's always receipts. He has receipt for it. He have the dark receipt. He have dark places that he went through. He have all of that. All right. He put in the work, the hours, so hours and the hours. He have ton of receipt for it. But we also have something that he cannot control, right? Which is injuries and a couple of things, right? So I was really happy that God was able to kind of protect him, shelter him a bit, to be able to fully obviously show the world his full talent. But the way I looked at it, man, he's exactly where he's supposed to be. People were like, Vic, you must be so excited. I'm like, I am excited, but when you've been through a journey of a young man that got up every day and worked, you've been through a journey. You're able to experience a young man that came from defeat, and that's one thing I tell people all the time: is a young man that came from nothing that he only on one way. It's up, right? We talk about I talked to our guys too, the circle of circle of fortune, right? And it says, guess what? Like, they have no way you're gonna be down forever. They have no way. All right. His childhood, right? The injuries, right? Being doubted, being told you're not fast enough, you're not big enough, right? Eventually that fortunate circle going to turn, and you're going to turn your way. And I tell my all guys too, when things are going really well, watch out, because guess what? It might go down again. So, and like I said, I was really happy for him. I was really happy for his mom. She'd been through a lot. She was with him since day one. He's the youngest of five kids. She's a single mom that, that did everything herself, right? She tried her best. There were times where Akeem came to training. He walked about 5-6 kilometers to training in a winter storm, right? Telling me, coach, that I have no heat at home. Like, they have no food. So those moments, when he got drafted, Alex, I was like, you know what? You might have came from an unfortunate situation, but you did not have a poor man mentality, and you're exactly where you're supposed to be.
Just talking about Canadian football in general now, the college football pipeline you've helped build kind of runs through a lot of camps and showcases south of the border. For a
Mhm.
young Canadian kid today who wants to play D1, what does that actual path look like?
It's not as complicated as people make it to be, Alex. And I can kind of mention it to a bunch of media outlet in the States. Football is football, plain and simple. All right. And I think that a lot of young men here, right, they're looking for that dopamine. They're looking for those short wins, that short, but that quick taste. Where at the end of the day, the path is really simple, right? Especially with this new environment of NIL and everything else, is simple. build your foundation. Build your foundation from the get-go, right? They have a lot of distraction. Stay focused, build foundation, speed, athleticism, what Pat's doing, what's Don doing. You cannot compete as a receiver down south if you're not a 4-5 guy. It's plain and simple. You can be the best guys in the CAFA. You can be the best guy in OSFL or VFL. But if you cannot go down there and compete against guys who are 4-5, because guess what? Everyone's a 4-5 down there. That's a minimum to get to dance. And that's the first thing I tell our young guys. And two, you got to compete against a red competition. You got to build a red self-esteem. You cannot be here and be the dude in the CAFA, be the dude in the OSFL, and never compete against good competition. Because at the end of the day, I think Jim Harbour is the one that told me this. And it was kind of, I brought it back to a couple of coaches here in Canada. They kind of laugh at it. Jim, when he offered Christian Vea, and I was saying his film, he's one of the best quarterback back home. And some leagues say, doesn't mean anything to me. That does not mean anything to me. When I watch Canadian film, it's really to see exactly how guys out more of a behavior than a skill thing. So it kind of put in perspective. A lot of young men will come to me and tell me, guess what, coach? OSFL is better competition than the CAFA. When Jim look at that, same thing to him. Right? Okay, the guys in OSFL might be running slightly faster, but it's still Canadian football. So if you want to know where you stand, right, go down there, compete against the real dogs. And a lot of young men should build a false self-esteem. Like I said, and that's really all it is. And the third thing too, you have to love football. You gotta, whatever sports, you have to love it. If you don't love it, you're not gonna last long. Because the minute where you step in college ball now, that's a business, right? It is a business. You are a number. And a lot of our young men don't understand that your number is what you can do for them at that period of time. If you're not producing, you're going to hit the door. That means you don't love the grind, you don't love football, you're not going to last long, because there'll be a lot more dark moment than wow moment. A lot of young men don't realize that.
You've ran some recent camps where you brought back Akeem and Eli Anku and Jonathan Sutherland, Luigi Villain, all as coaches for the next generation. What does it mean to you when the kids you mentored not so long ago come back to mentor the next wave?
I think is rewarding, because that's where we want to be. And also to Alex, I was coached by a lot of coaches who were good. We had a lot of good coaches growing up. But I had a lot of coaches, right, that they were, like I said, we talk about ego. In the sense, guess what? They knew everything. We want the fact that Patrice coming back coaching, Jonathan's coaching, Luigi's coaching, and all those guys. Graydon Campbell is actually one of my right-hand men now. He played with Mary. Now he's back coaching ball. He's a teacher as well. Is those guys, football's changing so much that those guys are the future. Those guys are the one that are going to build my kids. It's not going to be me. Because Patrice knows a lot more than I know. And he will always know. Same thing with Jonathan Sutherland. So it's almost you're gonna pass that torch, and that's one thing too. That's what's wrong with this city overall. You see a lot of guys, a lot of coaches don't go to any clinics. Like even as a strength coach right now, right? Like when I get a chance to go and shadow a strength coach in these days, go to a seminar, get more education, I go. But we have to ask ourselves here, how many coaches here in the city that are coaching football? I know we have a lot of dad coaching balls, right? But how many of those coaches that are coaching football actually go and get better. Like I said, for us as a coaching side, being like Gridiron Academy, once a year we go to that coaching convention in Charlotte. It's going to be in Indiana now because we always want to learn new things. So bring out guys who are in the game now to coach our youth is the best way we can actually grow the sports here in Canada.
Now, getting closer to the end here, you started coaching before you were 20, served your country for over a decade, built a program from a free camp to a national pipeline, and raised a family all at the same time. What keeps you going?
I'm hungry, Alex. I'm hungry, and that's what it is, right? So like, there were a lot of guys. That's one thing too. I'm really hungry. Now, parents came from nothing. Like I said, like I'm like a key messenger. My father was not in my life. My father was not in my life, right? So like I, you know, every day is a blessing, right? When I get up in the morning, is a chance to do great things, right? So that's it. I'm like I said, I want to be the best father. I want to be the best husband, right? Like, and that's just that's what keep me going. And that's I think that's a difference in a lot of people's, and that's one thing I'm trying to teach my kids as well too, right? I'm hungry, and also too, I got a lot of people, I got a lot of little brothers that are looking up to me, right? Luigi Villan, talk about Luigi, he's became a father not too long ago, right? Like he looked up to me as a model. So it was it's great, and like I said, and I'm also really blessed for guys that coach me, like the Randy Bellini, the Mike Johnson, even the coach Luigi Costanzo. I went to coffee with Coach Costanzo a couple of days ago. The Mike White. So like I said, like I'm just doing my part, and that's what it is.
What's next for Gridiron Academy? And I know you also have Uplift Ottawa on your resume there too. Are there things you haven't built yet that you really want to, that you want to close the gap on?
Um, for me, always, I think I just want the guys to come back home and keep things going, right? Like I said, I've been doing this for over 20 years now. I'm 40 years old. I want to spend a lot more time with my kids. And I think one thing I was able to learn from Grand Academy doing this for over close to 20 years now is it's time consuming. If you, results don't come overnight, it's hours and hours and hours, right? And I think I just want to spend a lot more time with my family, my kids, and be able to help them. Also, too, I want to guide the next generation, guide them, making sure that they can keep this thing going forward. Because like I said, we have a lot of talent here. And if I was talking to Jonathan Sutherland the other day, you guys can come and take it over. The Patrice, keep this thing going, right? Be able to give back to community. Make those young men, women believe that guess what? They can accomplish everything they want in their life. It's even outside of football, right? Use football as a mean to go somewhere else and do bigger and better things, right? So that's kind of the goal right now, is just to make sure that guess what, they can keep this thing going, because there's so much potential here. It's just even outside of football, so much potential here in the city. And the way it is to Alex, why not us? I keep telling people like, why not us? You know, and like I said, we're doing it. Like I said, we're doing it in basketball, we're doing the music, we're doing it everywhere else. Like, why can we not do it in the football world? Why can we not have multiple first round draft pick in 1 year? And Akeem was able to obviously, he was able to put his name there so the rest can come and just, can come and just, do better than he did.
I think I should name this episode "Why Not Us." I think that'd be a good title.
Yes.
Double Major is a podcast about Canadian college football for young Canadian ball players listening right now who want to chase this game at the D1 or U Sports level. What's the one message you want them to hear?
Believe in yourself. Believe in yourself, right? And stay focused. They have a lot of distraction, a lot of it, right? Believe yourself, and stay focused.
I hope our young listeners pay attention to that. All right, that's it for this episode of Double Major, the newest Canadian college football podcast. Thank you so much, Coach, for your time today, and I can't wait to see what's next for the Gridiron pipeline.
Alex, thanks for having me. Keep doing what you're doing, man, because this we're only starting, Alex, and you're right in the front of it.
Thanks for watching the first episode of Double Major. 30 years ago, Coach Vic landed in Canada from Cameroon, not knowing very much about football, or at least Canadian football. Today, he's responsible for developing some of the best players this country has ever produced. If you're a young Canadian ball player watching this, believe in yourself and surround yourself with the right people. That's straight from Coach Vic. If you want to hear more stories from the people inside of Canadian college football, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and connect with me on social media at Double Major CFB on Instagram and TikTok, and at Alex M. McComb on X. Keep your grades up and your pads down. Class is dismissed. We'll see you next time.